Hello and welcome to another episode of the Barnsley StartUp MeetUp podcast with me, your host Matt Roberts, as usual. With me today I've got Paul Ridgway of The Curve, a software tech consultancy based in Sheffield, who one of their specialisms is IoT, and that's what Paul's going to be talking about at the next StartUp MeetUp event on Thursday. You started the business in early 2019, so just in time to get settled before pandemic fun and games. So, Paul, welcome. Do you want to just give me a bit of background about how you got into business? What was your inspiration to start your own business?
Yes, okay. There wasn't really too much inspiration in the conventional sense. Me and James have been working at a previous business for 7 or 8 years. We gained a lot of experience in that time. My team had grown from kind of just me to 90 odd people. James ran 2 of those teams. We both ended up leaving at about the same time. Didn't really fancy the idea of working for somebody else after doing a host of interviews and various other things. It didn't seem like it would fit, having had quite a lot of autonomy in the past. And so the idea came around. James and somebody else actually approached me to start a business doing consulting, because we had these skills that we thought, they should be valuable to somebody else.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, that's where it started. I say unfortunately because it's not really a good vision for a business to start and I just don't want to work for somebody else, because ultimately as well, you do end up working for somebody else. It's just your clients who change over time rather than, a boss. But over the years, we kind of figured out what we are better at and maybe not so good at out of those things we thought we were good at, and then focus the business around turning that into fitting a vision around the business based on that, rather than starting with a product idea or that more conventional route.
Got you. And so, because I think the previous company was the Floow, is that right? And that's obviously another big Sheffield-based business. What was the discussion like with your brother when you started The Curve? Was it something that you just kind of, you got drunk in a pub one night and were just kind of like, let's do it? Or was it more a kind of considered, we want to do this and actually build a business for ourselves?
It was a mix of things. There wasn't really the drunken pub conversation, but I think it started as a bit of a fanciful idea, and it became a bit of a serious idea over a couple of months. So I'd been doing a few interviews, mostly around Leeds and Sheffield, but also did a couple in London, partly because I hadn't done an interview in probably 8-9 years. I'd been on the other side of the table, but James and this other guy who didn't end up kind of coming with us on this journey, they come to me at some point not long after I left saying we should start a consultancy or we should start a business. And I was thinking, that sounds like a lot of work, don't really know what I want to do yet and so on. But interviewed at places like Google, really fun interview process, but really didn't fancy how small that role would be within a bigger business. And I don't think the way that they figure out the role helps. They do the interview and everything first. They decide if they like you, and then if they like you, they then they come up with the roles that are available.
Right, okay.
And this recruitment person, or whatever a role was telling me about some of these different things. And I was thinking, that the fact they've got so many of these things and you're so kind of pluggable into any one of them potentially just didn't feel like before when you were a couple of teams. But I interviewed at Infinity Works as it was before they became Accenture.
Yeah.
And they made me an offer as well. And to be honest, it was that offer, the pounds that went with it, is one of the things that made me think, okay, maybe there is some decent money in this. Because it was a decent offer, but by that point I'd kind of already decided I was probably going to give it a go starting the business, and that kind of cemented it a little bit for me. If they could offer a decent salary, then presumably, and it sounds very naive, we hadn't looked into day rates or anything at that point. And we'd never really worked with contractors before, because we had an approach as a company of not doing that for a couple of perhaps not so valid reasons in hindsight. But, so like I say, it started as like, oh yeah, great, we'll start a business sort of thing, casual conversation, to, okay, now what we got to find some customers.
This could be a thing.
And in that process, when stuff got a bit real, this other guy decided that it wasn't for him, but James and I just cracked on.
Got you. Do you feel that that's the fact that there's two of you? Do you feel that that has helped throughout your journey? Like, is it something that's made the difference in terms of sticking with it?
Hard to say, probably. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who will say don't do it alone, don't go it alone, and I think that's true for a lot of cases. If you have to go looking for a co-founder, I think that's then tricky territory. If you haven't got a natural one or something like that. There's certainly been times over the years where I've thought this is getting a bit dull. So it's a bit cheesy, but I quite ascribe to the thing where if you're going to spend a lot of time doing work, it should be something that you mostly enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely.
A few famous people have said that, including Steve Jobs and so on.
Yeah.
And there's been some periods where I've woken up on a Monday morning thinking, oh, it's Monday, I really can't be asked with this. But it's good to have somebody else's perspective and somebody else maybe pulling you along sometimes, and sometimes you push the other person along, I think.
Absolutely.
So for us, it's been good. We, from day one, took different parts of the business from a responsibility point of view. So James, as CTO, runs the technical team, so he deals with all the projects and delivery, which is mostly the bigger headache, not always. I pick up all the other stuff, so sales, marketing, finance, you name it. If it's not on the delivery side, then it's mine, and that has its headaches at times too.
Of course.
But we also don't trip over each other. So when if I've got problems, I can go to him, and it won't be the same problem he's facing, and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's crucial, though, isn't it? Right? Because if you don't delineate those roles and responsibilities, then it's a recipe for arguments.
I think so. And in the early days, when we were both doing some hands-on work, because that's how we started, that's what you had to do when there was no team.
Yeah.
We had some differences of opinion on how things should be done there. Nothing major, but it's quite nice not to have those. If something goes wrong and I've got an opinion, I might share it. But if the team decides to do something else because they think it's better,
it's crucial when you start to get a team as well, though, isn't it? Right, because fundamentally they then know who they need to report to. Like, they might be working for, like, doing projects for either of you, right? Or for anyone in the senior leadership team. But the fact is that they know that if it's something delivery, they go to James. If it's something sales or marketing or anything else, then they come to you, right? And you get the final say in terms of how that works. And then there's no sort of ambiguity there, is there?
No, it's taken some time to refine it and to kind of recondition some of the early people that, you don't have to come to me anymore. I'm not really involved in this, and vice versa. But yeah, it works nicely.
Yeah, good. I had a brilliant question just on the tip of my brain then, and I've completely forgotten it. That was it. Yeah, do you still get to get on the tools at all? Like, I mean, you do. I see quite a lot of your kind of demo stuff that you do with IoT just to kind of show off what's possible. But do you get to kind of actually get stuck into project work as well?
I do. I don't do much of it, and to be honest, it's for everyone's benefit. So I like building these proof of concepts, like you mentioned, the IoT ones. Did one recently which did face and image recognition for getting photos from running events and stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was to see how it's done. Somewhat tick a box that I can do it too. And that's the bit I enjoy. I can pull together a proof of concept, and that's over the years has done well for us. It's won us work in different cases. But I don't actually enjoy the full software development life cycle. I don't really enjoy doing things like requirements or unit testing. Some people do. I've never got it personally. It's nice watching them all pass, but I find writing them a bit tedious. And I never got into any of the kind of test-driven or behaviour-driven stuff that some people really value.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So me doing that on a client's project, me developing, writing code for a client's project is not generally the best value for money in terms of quality of outcome and so on. I'll get involved in bits where maybe somebody's stuck or trying to do a proof of concept or something that doesn't require all of that robustness. Yeah. But when we want to deliver good value for the customer, it's better to let the team go and do it properly.
Of course.
Follow all the ways of working that we have. But yeah, I still keep active. Just in the bits that interest me.
On the face recognition for running events and things like that. So I did see that, or I have seen over the last few years that you've been getting into kind of doing longer distance running. So you've done a few marathons, I think, and up and down the country. So what got you into that? Why, was it an accident, or was it something that you quite enjoyed doing beforehand anyway?
So some years ago, I tried to get into a regular exercise routine. It's a desk job. It's not very even with bits of travel, it's not particularly active.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I tried to do something kind of regularly. And then, entered a couple of shorter races. I did the Sheffield half back in 2019 and a few little bits. But it was just kind of, it was a form of exercise in the mix. And then a couple of years ago, I kept seeing people's parkrun show up on Strava. I thought, I've never done that. I probably should just go along and see what it's like. Went to Encliffe, which is in Sheffield, and did one, came back again, and then started going again and again. Then I started doing the kind of classic thing where I tried to get faster and beat my time, which some people do it and they don't care about that, and I really should do that. But after the first one, I realised, okay, it wasn't too bad as a time, and I could actually probably improve on it. And then it kind of went from there, like, okay, if I can do that in a 5K, what can I do in a 10K? How much can I push myself in a half? And then last year did a first marathon, which it's a different undertaking, really. You can do up to about a half distance pretty much on a whim if you're fit enough. You maybe not going to get a time that you want, but you don't have to train too hard for it. You don't have to do things like carb loading. And for the half, I think it was like a 3 or 4 month training program.
Right.
2 days solid of eating pasta and rice beforehand. And then wondering whether you can actually keep going for the best part of 4 hours.
Yeah. Constantly
moving, no stopping. It seems weird that it's double a half, and that seems manageable. But
yeah.
So did that. That went pretty well. And then earlier this year did an ultramarathon, which is apparently anything classed longer than a marathon. So I guess technically it could be like 43K. I don't know.
Yeah.
But most people start at 50. It seems to be the norm. We did 75K around Sheffield. So that was an experience. Didn't go fast. The goal was just to get it done. But literally ran from sun up to sundown.
But that should be, just finishing that sort of distance is an
was
achievement in itself, right? I've seen quite a lot recently. I follow quite a few people on YouTube and on TikTok that are like, there's a guy called Andy Glaze, who I'm sure you might well be familiar with, but he does like kind of these Moab 240 mile races and things like that. And I just can't comprehend that kind of distance. I've done some half marathons, but that's pretty much as far as I go, right? And it's insane. Have you got any more like kind of lined up? Have you been bitten by the book, and do you want to do more?
Yeah, I enjoy the races. During the week, during training, it's kind of a means to an end. You can eat a bit more food and all sorts as well. Of course. But a couple of 10Ks this year to kind of finish it off. Another marathon in Brighton in April.
Okay.
And there's probably a few other bits around that, but I'll probably do like the Sheffield half again because loads of people do that.
I went to university in Brighton. Brilliant place. Yeah, loved it. It's a proper mission to get there, though. It's like, I don't know, like, have you ever been before?
Well, yes, but not from Sheffield. So grew up further down south, and getting to Brighton was a bit easier. I think we went once or twice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've not booked any hotels for that. I've not planned any travel, so it's going to probably be a bit of a car crash. Because they'll book up pretty fast. I'd be surprised if there's anything left nearby.
So to get back onto business stuff, obviously, you've been through, or my impression of like sort of seeing your social media journey and your business journey, I'd say you've moved out of that sort of startup phase, and now you're looking at scale up, really, aren't you? Like, I know that you've opened an office in London, in Leeds, or have you opened an office in Leeds now? Or
We've got a presence there. It's kind of one of these flexible office spaces, so we can kind of ebb and flow as we need to.
How's that been though? Like, how's that scale up? Like, has it changed the business in your eyes? Like, has it changed how you view the business and how you approach it?
No, I guess. So in the earlier years, we weren't focused on growing so much. We were more focused on surviving, especially through COVID. We never really liked being considered a startup, mainly because as a consultancy it was a bit different. We didn't go through those same phases that you might as a product business that's bootstrapping or something like that. So but in those early years, we weren't really thinking about growth. It was a different mindset, and at times it was just, we've got too much project work on, let's hire somebody. There wasn't always a plan to be following. Now we have got a plan that we follow, or try to follow, where it's in our control, which is maybe not tons always. But I think those phases don't change the they don't change the culture and the feeling. It's more, I think, the size stages of the business, which doesn't necessarily link to those phases. We noticed it at the Floow is when we got to 5 people, that's easy numbers. Everybody is very kind of close. 10 is still okay, but you start to maybe get a bit of separation from people. There's some people that you maybe don't talk to as often because you don't need to, and there's dilution there just naturally. Historically, I think kind of 2030 was another inflection point where you started to feel people breaking off into different teams a bit more than they did. We got a bit of that now. We've got the tech team and the non-tech people.
I think it's natural though, isn't it? Like, because just the nature of how you deliver work would force that, right? Once you're trying to go from, let's say, 600,000 a year to 1,200, like to 1.2 million, or like to 2 million or something like that, right? There's a very big difference there in terms of having to be focused on bringing business in, like working on the business as opposed to working in the business and things like that, right? And then actually just the nature of the work that you deliver as well, right, is different. So I think that's natural, isn't it? But it's interesting to hear from people who've gone through that or who are on that journey, right? Because it feels like sometimes there's some steps backwards as well, right? And you have to then kind of reassess what it is that you're doing and like how you're doing that and what's working and what isn't. And it's not all like plain sailing, like with anything, like with any kind of people viewing things from the outside in, get a very distorted view of like kind of what the journey's been, right?
Yeah, and LinkedIn and all that sort of stuff, it's a very selective view as well, because people often just put on all the good news stuff.
Oh, it's curated, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you have a real conversation with somebody and you realise that actually, the conversation we had in the lift, business has been up and down for many, many years.
Yeah.
Had another meeting this morning with somebody, exactly the same conversation, completely different industry. He was like, as soon as I think I know what's going on and I've got a plan, something shifts, whether it's politics or
absolutely,
else.
So yeah. And I think that's interesting as well. It's an interesting point of view, isn't it? Because a lot of people would have you believe that they understand what it is that's made them successful and how they've been successful. And whilst 90% of it is hard work, there's still a bit of luck involved there, right? Yeah. And there's talent and skill, but there's still a lot of luck. And it's not all about necessarily following a cookie cutter plan or a cookie cutter approach, right? You can't, what works for you doesn't necessarily work for me and doesn't necessarily work for anyone else. And so trying to follow that exactly is a recipe for disaster, I think. Yeah,
we've got some decent people around us who provide advice and other stuff, and I think there have been times where it's been tempting to copy what other people do or what their advice is or experience from previous businesses, and I think you've got to take inspiration from what people say works for them and figure out how it works for you. So, there's a lot of consultancies that will send people out, to work on other customers' projects and sites. And there's a way to run those sorts of businesses, but that's not what we are. We bring the project work in. So there's elements of that we can, or elements of running those businesses that we can lean on and borrow from. And there's some bits that just don't work because of how we do it differently.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is the future for the Curve then? So like, obviously you've started to branch out into other cities and around Yorkshire. Are you still focused on being Yorkshire based, or are you looking kind of further afield?
We've only really been based anywhere by circumstance. So obviously offices in Sheffield, that's where a couple of us live. A lot of the team are remote, and through COVID even, we hired remotely because didn't know when it was going to end. Didn't seem worth restricting the talent pool geographically, because we did that in the past, when it was normal for everybody to be in the office.
Of course.
It's quite limiting. So I think we will spread further afield because there is more opportunity outside of South Yorkshire. Unfortunately, the further south you go, there seems to be more. We've picked up clients across the country, though, to be fair, just being where we are.
Yeah.
one.
It's accessible, isn't it? Right.
Yeah, and COVID, the work from home and all that sort of stuff aside, one of the benefits I think has come from the culture shift to being able to do stuff online.
Yeah.
Is people are prepared to do deals online.
Yeah.
There were some projects that we won after lockdown had ended where we hadn't met the customer in person. I think one of them we still haven't met in person yet. The first in-person meeting will be later this week.
Wow. Okay.
It's not too common, but
no, I still feel like whilst it so even before COVID, but it was more in a recruitment sort of area. I routinely did screening calls on Teams or on conference calls to then get down to like, okay, we'll do a face-to-face interview and all of that sort of stuff. And I kind of feel like COVID accelerated that in the sales space as well. So you can kind of qualify leads and do all of the kind of groundwork remotely and very cheaply, actually. And then get to a point where it's like, okay, let's meet face to face and actually get a deal done. And I like you say though, what works for one person doesn't work for other people, and I find it really interesting that, and quite rare actually. Maybe it says something about the type of person, but like that you could do a deal without meeting someone face to face. I always get like you always look a lot shorter sat down. Which is always interesting, isn't it? Good stuff. Could you give us a little bit of a intro to what you're going to be talking about on Thursday?
Well, that is a good question because I didn't set the title.
I know. I kind of. I might well have guided that a little bit, but
I was going through the emails the other day, and I said to Hannah, like, "Where did you give him the title?" She's like, "Okay, that's going to be interesting." I
just made it up. No, sorry. I'm sorry if that's like kind of landed you in it a little bit. I kind of just thought that it'd be something that would be relevant for startups.
No, it's good. I think. So I think a lot of people try and build too much to launch. We see that with our customers. Some of the work we do is B2C products, apps, what have you, and they look at these things and think, we just need to tweak this before we can put it in front of customers. We just need to do that. And I think way too much that happens, especially when you're on the startup journey.
Absolutely,
like I said, it's a bit different on the consultancy side, but things don't have to be anywhere near perfect depending on what you're trying to figure out. And a lot of it is intellectual satisfaction in building something from scratch, but actually it's a horrendous waste of time, depending on what you need to prove.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of value in the early stages of doing more with less and build as little as possible, even though it's not very trendy or cool. But if you can deliver something to probably not even a customer, right? If you're on the startup journey, you're probably doing some freebies for prospects or whatever it might be. If you can deliver something that adds value to them, even if it's a bit rough around the edges or it's got somebody else's logo like Power BI or something else on the report screen, does it really matter if it saved you countless hours or days of engineering effort, thousands of pounds, etc.? So what I'm thinking of doing is, and I'm still planning this clearly, with being out last week, it's not really given too much thinking time, but two concepts where there's minimal, if no kind of coding and implementation, just gluing some stuff together kind of clunkily, but it gets you an end-to-end solution that you can iterate on. When that component, maybe it's the front end that the customer sees, becomes the most valuable piece or the biggest problem, then you swap it out and replace that. But if you're collecting data or something like that and there's off-the-shelf open source stuff that can do it,
why wouldn't you? And like exactly like you say, especially when you're looking at things like IoT where there's hardware involved. Spinning your own boards and making your own hardware. I know you know this as well. Like, you can send off to PCBWay and all of that sort of stuff and get some basic things done, but actually to deliver a product to market is horrendously expensive. And if you can do that based on other people's technology, then like absolutely, why wouldn't you do that? And there's Tech SY recently had a program running with a guy called Chris Dalrymple, who I don't know if you know, you probably do because he's definitely well known in Sheffield, and he was doing exactly that, like, prove the market. You can do some really basic things. Ben Hawley, who runs Enterprise in Barnsley as well, he's really good at that kind of proponent of just pull some really basic things together that are free and off the shelf or nearly free and off the shelf, and just test your market. Like, go and speak to people and see what works and see what they're interested in.
I think people also get not necessarily confused, but I think they are a bit deluded often in where IP lies. Oh, I've got to write all the code, I've got to own it all, I've got to blah blah blah. That's where the value is. But when you're in doing the development, especially if you use things like Copilot or some of these other tools that have come out, and even before that, writing code is the easy bit. Like, you can pay people to do that. They'll do a decent job, unless you're doing some really deep R&D or something really kind of niche. Building the software is kind of the
if you can explain it,
understanding
it's something you can do.
Understanding the product, what it needs to do, what the value is for somebody, articulating it properly to the person building it. That whole rich thing, including maybe the software and your brand and everything else. The idea is I think more the IP.
That's what the value
days.
Is, right? Yeah, definitely.
Actually, somebody could go and code the same thing again in the vast majority. Those examples we were talking about of pet projects like the face and the image recognition.
Yeah.
It's built on open source, right? The people make a living out of providing those services for organised races. They're not going to suddenly start coming to me because they've seen me build it. You need the contacts, you need the network, you need those other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's who you know.
I think a lot of people lose sight of that when they're just thinking about the code and the supposed value that is in that.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of if you build it, they will come kind of mentality, which is like...
It used to work a long time ago. There was only a handful of tech companies out there.
Absolutely. With vibe coding and all of that sort of stuff these days, then I don't think that's necessarily that horse is bolted, right?
Long time ago.
Absolutely. Good stuff. There's always a question. I don't know if you've watched any of my previous interviews, but I always have a question that I have to ask as part of my interview, and that is, Paul, what's your ultimate sandwich?
Right. Ultimate sandwich. BLT.
Yeah. Oh, really?
From Tesco's or Marks and Spencer or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
Don't know. Well, I do know why. I mean, it's something that it was always kind of a treat when I was younger. Meal deals now is like, I haven't got time for lunch. It's a very commodity thing. But when I was a kid, it wasn't quite the same sort of thing. But also, actually, I think this is going to sound really, really sad. I think it's a good combination from a flavour point of view. But if you look at the macros on it and stuff like that, it's quite healthy compared to the other things you can get.
Yeah. Would you have it as like so? Would you prefer the ones that come from the supermarket, or like do you splash out sometimes and go with like a triple stack, toasted on like, I don't know, some sort of sourdough or something like that? Or like,
yes, but you generally feel more gross afterwards. So, different trade-offs there.
Nice. Do you have a particular type of bacon that you like in it, like streaky bacon or smoky or anything like that? Just anything.
To be honest.
Good stuff. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast, Paul. It's been really good to talk to you. As always, the Startup Meetup is on the second Thursday of every month, although I will be having a break for Christmas. So we'll be back after the November episode we're in January with some new content for the new year. And all that's left to say really is, thank you for joining me, Paul.
Thank you for having me.
Much appreciated.